You know, when you picture the Battle of Britain, you probably think of Spitfires and Hurricanes twisting through the summer sky, defending the island against impossible odds. It's a story we all feel like we know. But buried inside that legendary victory is another story, one of exile, incredible courage, and a contribution so vital it might have changed the entire outcome. Okay, let's get into it.
Now take a good look at who's saying this. This isn't just some historian decades later. This is Air Chief Marshal Sir Hugh Dowding. He was the guy in charge of Fighter Command, the architect of Britain's entire defense. For him to say he hesitates to say the outcome would have been the same without the Polish pilots? Wow, that is an absolutely jaw-dropping statement.
So let's set the scene. It's 1940. The Nazi war machine has just steamrolled across Europe. Britain is standing all alone, the last real hope. And every single day, the Luftwaffe is sending wave after wave of bombers and fighters, trying to smash the RAF to pave the way for an invasion. The only thing standing in their way, the pilots Churchill famously called the few.
But that famous phrase, the few, it brings up a really interesting question. Among all these heroes, all these defenders of the sky, who were the best? I mean, who actually shot down the most enemy planes? Well, the answer's probably not what you think.
And here it is, the hidden story. This single highest-scoring Allied fighter squadron of the entire Battle of Britain was number 303, a unit made up almost entirely of Polish pilots. And get this, they only joined the fight about halfway through, which just begs the question, how on earth did they do that?
What makes their story even crazier is that at first, the RAF command was really hesitant to even let them fly. I mean, they were worried. Would these guys speak enough English to follow orders in the air? Would their morale just be shattered after watching their own country get overrun? They were kind of seen as a risk.
To understand what happened next, you have to rewind. You have to look at where these pilots came from. Their journey to Britain was a literal trial by fire that turned them into some of the most experienced combat pilots anywhere in the world.
You see, this is the crucial thing. The British kind of misunderstood who they were dealing with. These guys were not fresh-faced kids out of flight school. They had already fought the Luftwaffe twice. First, defending their own homes in Poland in 1939, and then again during the fall of France in 1940. They knew the enemy, they knew their planes, their tactics, and they were burning with a desperate need for revenge.
This timeline really puts it into perspective, doesn't it? For them, this wasn't just a change of scenery. It was a desperate, year-long fighting retreat across an entire continent, from Poland to France and finally to Britain, the last place left to stand. They hadn't just lost a battle, they'd lost their entire country.
So when they were finally given a chance to fight and they were equipped with the awesome Hawker Hurricane fighter, well, the result was just explosive. All that experience, all that pent-up anger was about to be unleashed on the Luftwaffe.
And you can't make this stuff up. On August 30th, 1940, during what was supposed to be a boring old training flight, Flying Officer Ludwig Paszkiewicz just peels away from the formation. He'd spotted a group of German planes, so he dives on them and shoots one down. His British commander was furious, right up until the kill was confirmed. The very next day, 303 Squadron was declared fully operational.
And over the next 42 days, just 6 weeks, covering the absolute height of the Battle of Britain, this one squadron would achieve something legendary.
They claimed 126 confirmed German aircraft destroyed. Just think about that. That's an average of 3 enemy planes shot down every single day for 6 weeks straight. The numbers were so unbelievably high that RAF Command initially thought they had to be exaggerating their claims. This tally made them the #1 most successful fighter command squadron in the entire Battle of Britain. The newcomers, the exiles, the pilots that some weren't even sure about, had outflown and outfought every single other squadron.
This chart really drives the point home. I mean, look at the sheer efficiency here. All 145 Polish pilots in the battle scored 203 victories, which is incredible. But then look at number 303. Just 34 pilots, and they scored well over half of that total. Their impact was just completely out of proportion to their size. So, this brings us right back to that central question. This wasn't just luck. So what was it? What was the secret sauce that made these pilots so devastatingly effective? It wasn't the planes. They flew the same Hurricanes as many other British squadrons. And it wasn't just raw courage either. The RAF had that in spades. No, the answer is this unique combination of things that no one else had.
We can really break their success down into 4 key components.
We've talked about their experience and their morale, but their tactics and the support they had on the ground were just as important.
Okay, this is a huge piece of the puzzle. The standard RAF way of doing things at the time was to fly in these tight, rigid formations and open fire from a pretty safe distance, like 200 or 300 yards. But the Poles, they learned hard lessons over their own country. They flew in looser, more flexible formations that let them react faster. They relied on their own sharp eyesight to spot the enemy first, and, most importantly, they got in close, like point-blank range, 100 yards or even less, before opening fire. That guaranteed devastating accuracy.
But the pilots weren't the only heroes here. Their ground crews, the mechanics, the armorers, also Polish, were absolute legends. These men and women worked around the clock, patching up planes riddled with bullet holes. So while other squadrons often had to take off with maybe 9 or 10 planes instead of the full 12, No. 303 was almost always at full strength, and that just meant more guns in the air every single time.
Their contribution was just undeniable. They helped win the battle that saved Britain from invasion. But for the pilots of 303 Squadron, the end of the war would not bring the freedom they had fought so damn hard for.
The squadron didn't just stop in 1940, you know. They kept on fighting. They transitioned to the legendary Spitfire and later to the American Mustang, flying dangerous escort missions for Allied bombers, taking the fight all the way to the heart of Germany.
But then you look at this timeline, and it's just tragic. 1945, victory in Europe is declared. Just a year later, the squadron is disbanded. And the reason why is heartbreaking. At the Yalta Conference, the Allied leaders, Churchill, Roosevelt, and Stalin, agreed to place Poland under the control of the Soviet Union. The very country these men had fought and bled to liberate was essentially traded away.
And that's the ultimate tragedy. For these heroes, the war didn't really end in 1945. They had saved Britain, but they couldn't go home to a free Poland. Many of them lived out the rest of their lives in exile, knowing their homeland was now trapped behind the Iron Curtain.
And that leaves us with this difficult, thought-provoking question. The story of 303 Squadron is one of incredible triumph and deep tragedy, of a battle won and a homeland lost. It's a powerful reminder that history is complicated, and that sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones who fight on, even when their ultimate dream remains just out of reach.